Hello again, everyone. I wanted to show you guys something that I've been working on here for a bit. This is a Numark DJ2GO, which is actually a USB device. It uses this little mini USB connector here that you hook up to a PC and use the software, and it's for, basically it's just mixing music and stuff like that, as if you were using two turntables or CDJs or whatever. You got your pitch controls here, your crossfader, play, pause, cue, and all that stuff. One of my friends actually owns this, who's a DJ, and he stumbled across some information online where you can modify this and add some additional buttons for some extra functionality that you can set with using some software. What they had done is they had actually added 24 buttons to this unit by replacing each one of these pots with 6 buttons using a resistor divider, which I'll show you how I'm going to do that. And my friend didn't want 24 buttons, he only wanted 12. So we're going to be replacing these two knobs here. There's supposed to be supposed to be for headphone and one's supposed to be for master. We're going to replace these with 6 buttons each. And I'm actually working on building this little other button panel that's going to attach to the top up here. And each one of these is going to have 6 buttons. I still need to bend this, so it's not done yet. I'm still working on it. I'm going to be bending it where these lines are, and then bending these inwards, and then I'm going to probably weld the seams here. So it's going to be up on top there. I've made these boards that are going to house the switches, and the resistors are going to be a surface mount resistors. And there's going to be one of each on this side. And then I got these little screw sets that I've made here with some spacers that are going to hold the board to the top here, the casing. And these are the buttons I'm going to be using. Little tack switches, and actually I got these from Mouser, as you can see. So there's going to be 12 of those. And so the way this works is going to be where we normally have a pot on each one of those knobs, we're going to be putting in a resistor divider like this, where this is going to go to plus 3.3 volts or so. I believe that's what we're going to be doing. And then each one of these switches, each one of these buttons, when you click on it, it allows a different resistance here to output a different voltage here. And actually I was supposed to, this is going to be the out right here, and that's going to basically go to where the center of the pot was. So as you click, it puts out a different value voltage here, and this resistor here is probably just going to be for debouncing so that it stabilizes the voltage a little bit. So let me show you what's inside of this. It's actually a fairly simple device, the way it's built. So you got your wheels here. I've already took the screws off of this, so it'll be easy to open here. You just remove this back. As you can see, each one of these wheels is mounted on a bearing to make it easy to spin, so it's pretty free. There's nothing on the bottom here of this board much other than a bunch of traces. We remove this, and you see the buttons. Each one of these knobs is just a quadrature encoder, and as you can see, it's got the little slits there. As you rotated, it interrupts the light from these into the phototransistors there. There's just another set of buttons here, and not much here, just a bunch of diodes on this side. You got your little voltage regulator, little microcontroller there. It actually says STM32F. You got a little rotary encoder right there for, it says browse on the front of the panel. And as you can see, here's the pots that we're going to be removing. Not a whole lot. You got some LEDs here on these buttons. Pretty simple. Most of it is pretty much already done. These are the boards I made, and they got a little oxidized from sitting here, but I'm going to have to clean them up. But here's where I put the pads for 1202 or 1206 resistors, where they're going to mount, and then the switches are just going to mount like so on here. So there's just going to be a total of 6 buttons all the way across, and as I said, these basically are just going to fit in there, stick out through the top, so you can click on them. So I got to finish drilling this out. I just got to drill the holes for these, and like I said, I need to bend it. So basically there's not a whole lot left for me to do here, and it's a pretty simple mod. So I'll show you guys this when it's done. I'm going to be painting it black so that it kind of matches everything else. And the way I'm going to mount this to the casing is I'm going to drill 4 holes across the length of this, and I'm going to screw them in through the back like this, so that it mounts to the top part of the DJ2GO. So there's going to be a screw here, you know, screw here, and another screw here. The only problem I'm going to have with that is that I'm not going to have access to these screws after I bend all this. So I'm going to drill a hole here, and then, you know, a hole here, and then another hole on the other side where I can stick the screwdriver in, so I can screw it into that. Alright, I got both boards completely assembled and wired. Put the resistors in the back and everything, so they're ready to go. I just need to put them in that case now after I finish that. And I'm just going to show you how this actually works. We're going to measure the voltage here, and I actually got myself a new multimeter finally. And I got both of these hooked up right now to 3 volts. And as we push each button, we're going to see that it gives out like a different voltage reading. This one here doesn't have a resistor. This one's just straight to the 3 volt supply there, so it just jumps up straight to 3 when you push it. And then 0.2 volts, 0.39 there, 0.75. As you see, it goes up as we go here. And I think it actually doesn't matter which resistor goes where, as long as the software is able to detect like a big enough voltage difference. That's all that matters, because I realized that I did this backwards, or not backwards, but I mean I put like the jumper right here where this one gives me 3 volts, and then this one just gives me 0.2. When up here it gives me the 1.81. So yeah, but I don't think that's gonna matter. I did the same thing on this one. Might as well keep them both the same. So as you can see, pushing up on here will give us different voltage readings. I got the little case all welded together now. I used a MIG welder and I kind of welded here at the seams, except I had to be really careful with this to not burn through so much because it's so thin. And I actually have a few little gaps here and there where it didn't completely, the seam didn't completely weld through. So I'm probably just going to use some sort of a filler for that, because I really don't want to go do this all over again. And I ground everything kind of smooth, except I got these little areas where you can kind of tell where the weld went, and I'm just gonna probably fill those in with something just to smooth it all out so it's less noticeable. And I drilled all the holes that are gonna be for attaching this little case to the rest of the unit, except I screwed up on this one and I used a big hole here where I meant to use them in the back. So after I loaded the drill bit in, and I meant to drill these out small, I accidentally did that one as one of the big ones, but it's not going to be a big deal. I could probably even use like a little washer or something behind that to hold it onto the box so it's not loose, but it's got 3 other ones that should do the job just as well. So yeah, and here's this side, and here's a few little areas I got to fill in, but it should be fine once it's all done. So for a filler, something I want to try that I found out about just recently is using super glue and baking soda mixed together, and supposedly it gets really hard and you're able to use it to like fill in cracks and stuff like that. So I'm going to mix some of this together here, and I'm going to apply it to the ends, and let's see how this goes. This yeah, liquid. Except I think I got too much baking soda here, so I'm just going to try to separate some of this out. Yeah. Then after it hardens, I can like sand it down and make it all smooth and stuff. Hopefully it doesn't harden before I have a chance to put it on the end there. Ah, crap, it's getting hard already. Dang it. Like made a little cake here already. This isn't what I wanted. Nope. Nope, this got super hard already and I haven't even applied it. I couldn't even mix it. Yeah. See, it's a whole little cake already, and holy crap, it smells. Alright, so I guess that's not gonna work. Dang it. Unless maybe if I put the super glue on the end first and then apply some baking powder or the baking soda to it, and I think it's actually smoking. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, this stuff is actually, it's smoking quite a bit. And it's getting really warm on the bottom here. Okay, so, I don't know. It's starting to melt this plastic lid that I'm using. Holy crap. Oh, dang. Well, it's certainly hard, but it's not going to do me any good on here. So, let's, yeah, I'm going to try that. I'm gonna put the super glue on the end. And then I'm going to just kind of dust a little bit of powder on there. And see if that's any better. I should probably use the lid instead, except I think that the hole's blocked, so I'm gonna have to clean that out first. Alright, I got the hole on this cleaned out now. Let's I'm gonna go ahead and put it on directly onto this case here, where I want to fill in these little low areas and these cracks. And I'm going to apply the baking soda with this little aluminum bar here. Hopefully this works. It's a bit messy, but what are you going to do? And you can kind of tell that it's hard already. Yeah, focus, come on. Certainly getting hard. Alright, I'm going to let that harden for a bit, and then, oh, I missed the spot down here. Alright. Add some baking soda. It gets hard really quick when you add this stuff on there. So, alright, I'm going to let that sit for a while, and then I'm gonna try to sand it down and see how it holds up. I'm not going to bother doing this side here because you're not even going to see that side. I just wanted to smooth out the visible areas, because then when I paint it, I want it to all look, you know, pretty smooth. So I'm going to let that sit, and I'll come back to it and see how well it's doing. Alright, I've had this sitting for several minutes now, so let's check on it. And if we can get this to focus. Come on. There we go. Most of it seems pretty hard. There's like a few soft spots, like right here. Yeah, there's like a few spots where it's soft, and I'm betting it's probably because the outside hardened, but the glue that was underneath doesn't have a chance to get any moisture or anything, so it stays soft, and that's not gonna work. Shoot, we're gonna have to figure something else out. Now I'm gonna have to remove all this stuff. Actually, let's see how hard it is to remove. Let me get something here to try to scrape it off, and then we'll see. It's just, oh, that was crappy. That just came right off. Alright, so I guess this isn't gonna work, and I'm gonna have to find some other way to fill this in. Yeah, this stuff's just coming right off. Barely even stuck to the metal. Well, shoot. Alright. I guess I'll have to, oh, sorry for the blurriness. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to get something else, maybe like Bondo or something instead. So once I do that, I'll continue with this. However, this piece is pretty hard. Well, the edges kind of crack a little easy, but this main part here, no, there it goes. The thicker parts hold up pretty well, but it's alright, I guess. It's not going to work for this, but I'll have to think of something else. Okay, so since the super glue and baking soda experiment was kind of a disaster and didn't work out as well as I wanted it to, I ended up using this two-part epoxy stuff that I got from Harbor Freight, and I applied it pretty thick here, and as you can see, it filled in stuff pretty nicely. It's pretty shiny and clear. I laid it on a little heavy so that it would cover up all these little areas that I said were kind of low and stuff. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to sand it all smooth and flat and try to get it all nice looking, so that when I paint it, you don't see like all these areas where there's like little blemishes and stuff, just so it's like a nice smooth coat of paint. You can kind of see right there where it's kind of like bubbly, but yeah, this should all sand out pretty smooth. And I'm going to be using progressively finer sandpapers just so I can get it as smooth as I can. I hope this isn't getting too annoying showing just little progress shots of this case here, but I got the epoxy all sanded down on the ends, and if you can, I don't know if you'll be able to tell in here, but it's actually a lot flatter and smoother than it was at first. The epoxy filled in really nicely in these spots, and when I sanded it down, you can see that the metal here is at the same level that this epoxy is, so it was definitely like, you know, kind of concave in this area here, but now with the epoxy in there and all sanded, it smoothed it out quite well. And also on this side, and then like the end here where it was kind of low, so it filled in pretty good. And I'm not going to show any more progress shots of this, because all I'm going to be doing now is just sanding it down, smoothing it all out, and then painting it. I'm going to be using I'm just going to spray it with some primer and then some black paint, and then after that I'm just going to do like a clear coat over the top. So next time you see this, it should be all painted and everything. And I don't know if I showed this part here, I don't think I did, but I cut this out to allow the little switchboards to slide in there, because obviously they're not thin enough to fit in through that, and I needed this material here to be able to screw it onto the case. Oh, another thing I didn't mention was that the bottom little plate here sticks out a little bit farther than the top of the box, which I was actually going to cut and make it so it was flush with this edge here, but I realized that this little lip actually provides a good surface on the bottom, where the bottom of the DJ2GO can actually rest on this, and it actually brings this like pretty flush with the top part, so it's gonna kind of just help hold it in place there and prevent it from, I guess, you know, wobbling or anything like that. Also just kind of helps to keep it there for when I screw it on, that it sits pretty flat. Alright, it's been a few days now since I recorded any progress on this project, and during those few days I done goofed a couple times, and I'll show you what I did. I'm putting this together now. I got this side all mounted and done. I'm working on this other side now, and I'll just kind of show how I'm putting this together. If you've been paying attention to this, you might already know what one of the problems is. I'll tell you if you haven't caught it, but I'll show you how I'm putting these boards on here. I'm going to kind of slide this over to the left a little so that it clears this hole. So I'm going to stick this screw through. It's kind of hard to do this on camera, but I'm trying here. And then I'm using this really long needle nose to put the spacer on the screw there. So that goes in like that. And then next, I got to make sure that the board goes, or that the screws actually go into the holes on the board like that. There we go. Okay, so that's in. I gotta make sure that wire gets out of the way up here on the top so that it doesn't get pinched in. But first, now what I'm gonna do, that came out. Okay, there we go. There, okay. I'm gonna put on these locking washers to prevent the nuts from shaking loose. I mean, I gotta do it with these little needle nose pliers because I can't get my fingers in those cracks or in those openings. So it's kind of hard to see that. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just using these M2.5 nuts and screws sets to, oh man, it came off. Come on. Hey, okay. Here goes the nut. Alright, so that one's on. I gotta get this other side on. And I'll take care of that wire here once I got this on. It's just to hold the board in place, just so it makes it easier to screw afterwards. Operation. Okay, we're good now. So here it goes. Alright, just enough. And now, gotta get that red wire here to clear the opening. There we go. So then I gotta tighten this up to pull the board up through the opening on the top here. First I'm gonna do it just so it's a little snug, but not all the way. Do the same on this side. And I gotta line these switches with the opening. Okay, looks like that'll clear. And now I go ahead and tighten up the rest of this. And the spacers will hold the board at that distance that I want. For some reason it's curving. Okay, it wasn't supposed to do that, and I don't know why it's doing that. Could it be that the switches haven't completely gone through here? The heck is going on? Oh, okay. Yeah, some of the switches, see, it's some of the paint here is kind of holding it back on the edge. Okay, so that's not a big deal. I'll be able to push them through, so I'll go ahead and tighten up this other side. So have you caught it yet? The problem, or my little design flaw? Okay, if you haven't caught it, these holes in the back were supposed to be for inserting these screws, so the head could just clear that hole, and on the other side I'd have the threads come out. You know, the threads fit just right through, but it would hold the head from coming out. Well, the ones that were supposed to hold it in here, as you can see, are not going to go through at all. So these two holes are basically useless. Like, I can't mount with those into the unit itself. But I still have the outside two, which are totally fine. So the way this was going to work was, you know, I'd put the screw on the end of a screwdriver here, and then I'd just push it through there and then have it come out the other side. But I mean, it fell out. I'm gonna have to magnetize this a little bit before I do it, just to keep it from falling, but it would just come out like that, and then I could just screw it in from this side, and then, you know, this would hold the whole unit attached to the DJ2GO. But yeah, I won't be able to use those at all. So even though I screwed up on this one here, it doesn't matter because it's kind of pointless. Alright, so when I was getting this ready to paint and everything, the first time that I applied the primer, I had a nice you know, coat of it all over everything, and it was nice and smooth. Well, when I went to go take it off of I was using some wire to kind of, you know, hold it up. When I went to go take it off the wire, I dropped the thing, and so it got, you know, the primer got chipped in a few places and scuffed and everything, so I had to remove it and do it all over again. And then the second time I applied the primer, I was having a nice coat going on when I accidentally got a little too close on one end, and I had a big blob of primer accumulate on one side, and it just formed this really nasty looking drip, which I couldn't get rid of, so I had to do it all over again. So in the third time, the primer was fine. I went ahead and painted it with black paint, and that was fine too. I did a couple coats of that, and you know, it looked fine. It was all smooth and everything. I let it dry for a couple days, and then I went ahead and applied the clear coat, and when I did, unfortunately, it kind of did this whole little crackle thing in some areas, like here and here. And some of the other spots is fine, like here in the bottom. It went on totally fine, but just up here, especially where it's visible. I mean, it couldn't have happened down here where you can't see it, because it would have been fine. But no, it had to happen up here. So, I mean, the only way to get rid of that would have been for me to redo this all over again, which was just kind of gonna be kind of a pain. And I told my friend that I'd give him back, or I'd get this back to him in a few days here. So I'm just gonna have to deal with it. I mean, it's not bad, but I was really hoping that it would look a lot better than that. But well, I guess we'll have to make do. So now that this is completely done, we're gonna go ahead and move over to actually doing the electronic work in here. I mean, it's just a matter of like pulling these pots out and soldering these wires to where they're supposed to go. So it's not a big deal, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Alright, to desolder these pots, I'm gonna be using this very old school Ungar hot vac desoldering gun, which has a little button here that you push and it starts sucking at the tip. So that's what I'll be using. If this doesn't work, I'm gonna have to resort to soldering iron and maybe some wick or something. So here we go. Should be hot enough now. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, it sucks the solder right out. And of course the tip is loose. Jeez. Catch a break around here. The only times I kind of have some issues with doing this is when dealing with lead-free solder, because I have a bit of a hard time sucking it up because it hardens too quick. It's like I got most of it. I mean, it's loose, but I think the metal one here still hasn't. One thing I don't like is that this the hole on that tip is like really large, and I have a hard time with some of the like really small pins and stuff like that with this. But I can't find any other tips. This tip I actually found at a local electronics store, and what it had previously was actually this other little piece that kind of extended outwards. And it'd be nice if this thing was in focus. So it had this little piece that extended out from the tip here, like a little tube, and it was about, I don't know, maybe like 1/8 of an inch long, about that long. Well, it was so thin that it didn't really hold much heat to it. So sometimes when I touch it to something, it would just cool off so quickly that whatever it was I was trying to desolder just stay solid. So I ended up just cutting that off, and then I just kind of sanded the tip a little so it was a little bit smoother. But I mean, it's still way too big, and I'm having a hard time with that center pin there just because I can't really get into it. So I think I'm gonna have to heat it up with a soldering iron to get the rest of it out. But I mean, for removing the majority of the solder, especially around these little big mounting tabs, it's nice and quick. So as you can see, I got most of it on those. The end ones here aren't too bad. I mean, I can get those pretty, well, somewhat easily. But the middle ones are the ones I have a hard time with. I got quite a bit out on that one, but yeah, I'm gonna have to maybe use a little bit of copper braid and just heat it with the soldering iron. Alright, so the pots are out, and what I decided to do is, so I don't have a gaping hole on the top of the unit here where these were supposed to be, is I'm actually going to put them back in, but I'm just going to bend the pins here upwards so that they don't make any contact with anything, just in case my friend decides, you know, he wants these to work again in the future or whatever, or just wants to like undo the mod. So they'll sit there, and that way they're not going to touch anything. I might even put like some, I don't know, maybe some heat shrink or something over them so that there's like no chance that they're somehow gonna like end up touching that little capacitor that's like right there, right underneath them. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, and so that should be fine. Alright, so I got the pots back on the board with the heat shrink on them. I put the little piece of a heat shrink on the wires that are going to come into the case here, and I made a little notch on the bottom where this little bundle is going to come in just like that. And so the board is actually going to sit on top of the wires, and I'm going to solder them in from underneath. There's actually a nice point right here that's labeled 3.3, so I'm going to probably just tap into that from the bottom there. It actually looks like it goes to it looks like it actually goes to the pot right here too. So I guess I could do it either there or there, it doesn't matter. Then another point's just going to be ground, and then I got the two wires coming in from the sets of buttons that are just going to go to where the middle pins of these pots were, so they're just going to solder straight into those two right there. And after that's done, it's pretty much ready to go. I just got to put everything back together, and I'll see if I can get the software and load it up and give it a shot. So as far as all the electrical connections go, that's it. Just 4 wires, just positive, ground, and then the inputs. And there we have it, all completed and assembled. It actually added quite a bit of weight to this. Now it feels pretty hefty. There's one thing I didn't really realize when I started this, but the sides of this unit are actually not straight. So since I screwed into the top part, it actually tilts up just a tiny bit. But I think we're gonna go with. I was thinking that this was just gonna be like, you know, flat all throughout, but since it's curved a little bit, I think we're gonna call it a feature. One more thing that it probably needs is maybe like a few these little rubber pads on the bottom of the actual case here, because when you push these buttons, it kind of, I mean, it's not bad, but it, you know, it can kind of tilt a little bit if you push hard enough. I mean, it doesn't need a lot of force to get the buttons to push, but you can kind of tell that when you push one, it kind of lifts up on this side a little bit. But overall, not too bad. Well guys, unfortunately it looks like I won't be able to test this out before returning it to my friend, and he lives about 2 hours away, so it's not like I can just get it back if something doesn't work properly. But I mean, it's such a simple mod that I can't see it much going wrong really, so he's just gonna have to check it out, see for himself if it works. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed and make sure it does. So thanks for watching this video. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure to thumbs up. I'll probably include some links down below for where to find the information on how to do the whole switches and resistor networks where my friend found it, and probably some links to the switches and stuff. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time. Because I need your reaction. Ow. Oh shit! Look at. Wow! That's amazing. The two knobs that I replaced actually don't do anything. Like, yeah, but it makes it look good. It's just so, yeah, so it didn't look all crappy. Holy hell! Oh, that is so dope. Have you looked up the programming?